Вітаю вас.
Greetings, my name is Oleksandra. I am head of the program Transparent Cities from Transparency International Ukraine. We are really sorry for the delay because the morning air raid alert was the reason to that, but here we go. Very soon we will learn who, in spite of the challenges of war, became transparent or partially transparent city, but that will be a bit later. Now, a few technical moments. What will happen next? First of all, I would like to mention that if there is a raid alert again, we will have to stop our broadcasting. If there will be serious air raid alert, we will stop everything and we will continue after it ends up. But hopefully we will be able to communicate and to share our results. So our event is going on in Ukrainian and English. The English version of the broadcasting you can watch Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, their YouTube channel and website. Ukrainian versions are available on Facebook pages of Transparent Cities and Transparency International Ukraine. Our event consists of a few parts. First, you will hear the greeting words of our leaders, that is Andrii Borovyk, the Executive Director of TI Ukraine and Director of Anti-Corruption Initiative EU, Alan Peck Christensen. After that, Anastasia Mazurok, our operational director, will present the results of the study, and we will be able in the second part to discuss these results, to talk about the challenges of the cities, where we succeeded, where we didn't, and this discussion will be moderated by Ivan Makhtionov, and the participants will be local authorities and civil society. So I would like to invite to the floor Andrii Borovyk, our executive director. Good morning. Well, actually, due to the delay, my brief word became much briefer. And every year I recall how we just started this project and this program. Well, actually, I had no big hopes, but I had a thought, let us measure transparency in 100 biggest cities of Ukraine, and then we'll see what's out of it. So what happened afterwards? We are doing that for 7 years already, and we are trying in between the assessments to help them become better. Before the full-scale invasion, actually, our cities had wonderful results. In 4 years till 2021, the improvement was 60%, and a lot of the information that was open to the cities, it was sampled not only for the neighboring cities in Ukraine, but also for the cities abroad. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the situation changed dramatically, but still, this transparency remains for local authorities, for citizens, and we need that due to many reasons, and we will talk more about that in the second part of our today's meeting. We continue assessing, we continue cooperating, of course, paying attention to the situation that we've got, and we think that this work actually helps to become better, even under the conditions of war. And next, I would like to give the floor to our very important partner, Alan Peck Christensen, who is head of the Anti-Corruption Initiative EU, and he's supporting us now the first year already and supports our work. Alan, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks to TI, Transparency International Ukraine, for once again producing a high-quality study on transparent cities in Ukraine. I think your work has become a very important piece of guidance for the local authorities on how to become more transparent. And your ranking of cities is, I think, also providing a sound competition between the cities that want to, from year to year, see how they progress and compare with each other. We often see a link between more transparency, less corruption, because with transparency you often close some gaps for corruption in the city administrations. And therefore for us working with anti-corruption, the whole issue of transparency and how to measure transparency is a very important factor. Within our program, we are working with 6 cities in Ukraine: Mykolaiv, Mariupol, Nikopol, Chernivtsi, Chervonograd, and Zhytomyr. they're all bigger cities, and they're all to different extent influenced by the war. Mariupol, of course, not much we can do there at the moment. Hoping and looking forward to coming back one day. Nikopol, a very difficult security situation, but despite that, there are things we are doing in Nikopol, and we are, I mean, very impressed by the brave officials of Nikopol that are still working there. Mykolaiv, where we now have our biggest engagement, focusing on reconstruction and how to ensure that reconstruction will take place with respect for transparency, integrity, accountability. And then we have, of course, Zhytomyr, Chervonograd, Chernivtsi, cities that perhaps are less influenced by the war, but anyway, they all have quite a number of internally displaced persons, and also in other fields they are, of course, influenced by what is happening and the context. What we do within our Integrity City concept is that we provide support, integrity tools to the cities to help them optimize their procedures and processes. We help them develop what we call municipal integrity plans that are then adopted by the city councils. We facilitate the involvement of citizens in decision making, and we are providing tools in order to enhance transparency, including some important digital platforms. I would say that despite the war and all the challenges facing cities of Ukraine, we are quite impressed with the progress that is being done there in terms of transparency and preventing corruption. And I believe that is also what we will see from the study that is going to be presented today, that there is progress to see. One of the mayors we are working with told me once that, I mean, how can we expect to receive all the international aid we need if we don't do all we can to prevent corruption and create more transparency? And I think many mayors are probably thinking, having the same thoughts about the need to work more on preventing corruption. But of course, it's not only a question of pleasing international donors or investors. What we see now during the war is that that the tolerance of corrupt behavior among Ukrainians is lower than ever before. And I'm sure that local authorities also can feel that there's a higher demand for transparency, demand for preventing corruption, much more than we saw in the past. I will not take more of your time. I just wanted to briefly thank TI and to say a few words about our Integrity City project. And I think we're all excited to hear more about the study and its results. So I will leave it for now and just thank you for your attention. Thanks.
Дякуємо, Алане, вам.
Thank you, Alan, for your support. We really appreciate that, and we feel that even in spite of these difficult times, we are happy to move together. So it's time to mention the results. I would like to invite Anastasia Mazurok. She will present who became the transparent city last year, the most transparent city. Hello, everyone. It's an honor for me today to present our results of the work of our whole team, and to present the results of the assessment for 2023. So actually, which cities have shown some progress, which cities shown some regress, and how the things changed in comparison with 2021. I would like to remind you briefly at the beginning that Transparent Cities program is assessing transparency systemically under the conditions of war. In addition to analyzing and assessing situation, we are also doing some advocacy, we are giving clarifications, we are helping cities, we help to interpret certain changes, amendments in legislation, we are clarifying how can we implement best practices, we are helping the distribution of support, information exchange among them, as well as we are providing direct support to those who are in need under those conditions that we have. And also we are promoting the approach of necessity of constant involvement of citizens to making decisions, to impact and discussion of how changes in a certain city are happening. And correspondingly, we are promoting involvement of citizens to actually life of the city. As it was mentioned today already, we made the annual rating of assessment of transparency of the cities of Ukraine. In 2021, additionally, we made another product, the rating of reporting of the cities of Ukraine, to check whether the theses are declared, theses that might be sometimes nice and official. However, sometimes they were really different from the situation at places. And in order to do that, we were checking, as a matter of fact, the sticking to those principles of transparency. Of course, after the invasion, everything has changed. The situation changed dramatically. And so we don't make the rating. We don't want cities to compete, like to mark some position in the rating, because now the principles and beliefs are important and being adaptive to the situation we are in. Therefore, we just changed the methodology. We adapted that to requirements of the military time, of the martial law, and we are changing that according to amendments in legislation and according to all the changes. So today we would like to present results of assessment of transparency of cities, a few methodological words about what was included to assessment this year, and in particular, in comparison, how it differs from 2022, the first year of the full-scale invasion. This year we increased the number of cities assessed. We had 80 cities in comparison with the last year when we had 70. Now we have 21 oblasts covered and more expanded methodology in comparison with the methodology from last year. Now it has 50 indicators, and we combined them into certain fields, in particular the field of participation and access, informing about the work of local authorities, being adaptiveness of city council, procurement policy, staff policy, etc. Well, actually, on this map, you can see those 10 cities that were not assessed last year. However, at the same time, we added them this year. Certain circumstances on the battlefield have changed. The situations in the cities have changed. And we were getting requests from the cities themselves because they were mentioning that we want to be assessed because we are making a lot of efforts. Please include us into your assessment. So correspondingly, this year, we added such cities as Kharkiv, Lozova, Zaporizhzhia, Marhanets, Nikopol, Kryvyi Rih, Pokrov, Mykolaiv, Pervomaisk, and Yuzhno-Ukrainsk. And it will be very interesting to see whether the results of those cities are different from other 70 cities that were in assessment last year. It is very important to understand that the assessment is happening under the conditions and challenges that we are all existing in as of today. I think it's not a secret, however, nevertheless, it is very important to learn about the challenges that we have as a country, and local authorities are facing that, and local self-governments are facing that. And we need to understand that when we are talking about the assessments that we are going to present today. Of course, those are constant challenges. Those are constant challenges in terms of infrastructure that require quick and adaptive solutions. It is difficult to try to find this balance between the risks and necessity to be open and to report. It's lack of resources, financial and staff resources. It's difficulty in finding some competencies, and it is necessary to have some additional competencies. So these are also some difficulties in terms of communication on different levels of authority and different levels of management. These are, of course, certain economic challenges when the work of the enterprises is being stopped, and we have to relocate certain enterprises, loss of human potential and capital, and now we as a country are standing in front of request and necessity to move towards Euro integration, which is also imposing some obligations, and it sets some expectations and some standards for our country, and it's not always that they are aligned with the safety issues. And of course, now we have the third year of the full-scale war, and of course, this is shown like on psychological, psycho-emotional condition of the population and each person who is part of the process. So in these challenges, we are moving towards assessing actually whether it's good or it's bad, whether there is some progress or not, whether our cities are transparent, and what can we do as a country to become more transparent and for the well-being of citizens in spite of the challenges of war to be improved. So now we are switching to the most interesting part, I hope, of my presentation. We are switching to the results of the study. So what did we get? Before switching to mentioning the results regarding the cities, a few general tendencies, few general numbers. According to the results of our assessment among the 80 cities, the average level of transparency we've got on the level 42.3. I would like also to remind you that this is according to the assessment of 50 indicators. Now, among the 50 cities that were assessed this and last year, 30 cities have shown progress for 5+%. Some cities made just great job and they added like 30-80% of transparency. Is that much or not? I think that this will be heard in all of our discussions. I think that there is no one single answer to this. However, nevertheless, it is very important to see that actually we have some moderate progress in comparison with the last year when the average score for all the assessed 70 cities was on the level of 37%. If we are talking about how our cities are grouped at present in categories, I would like to remind you that according to our new methodology, we are not giving the rating to cities, not giving the position, but it's a category. It's not transparent, partially transparent, or transparent. And that is how we started doing according to the results of 2023. From all the assessed cities, 5 cities went into the category of transparent, 23 cities partially transparent or 29%. More than 65% of the cities assessed, or 52 cities, are those municipalities that were not transparent. So from one side, we can see that most cities are in the category of non-transparent. However, if we compare that with 2022, in this category of cities, we used to have more than 80% among everybody who was assessed. So we have some moderate optimistic movement, and that's very important. Just like in the category of transparent cities, last year we mentioned 3 cities. As for now, I am not naming the cities in order to show the general trends, so to say, but soon, I promise, I will tell you what kind of cities are those and how they succeeded. So among the 10 additional cities that were not assessed last year, 2 cities went into the category of partially transparent and the rest into non-transparent category. And at the same time, the average score of this assessment is not like the average of those 10 cities is not much different, and it has 37%. At present, on this slide, we can see the results all over Ukraine when we see where the transparent or partially transparent or non-transparent cities are. And as for now, you can just get the general framework of those cities in order to see that actually there is no direct connection, whether it's big city or not. Is that central or western Ukraine? Because actually, the previous experience is impacting the readiness to become transparent city political will and the readiness of the city to move forward. Now, a bit more details about the cities, the category of non-transparent cities. Here, we can now look more attentively for the city you are interested in, and I would like to remind you that unfortunately this category is the biggest one in this study, and it has 65% among all the assessed cities. At the same time, we can see that in this category there are cities, both oblast centers and also absolutely small towns. And there are categories of cities from different oblasts. I will say that, for example, in our study, the biggest number of cities was in Kyiv and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts, and unfortunately, the biggest number out of those oblasts went into the category of non-transparent cities. If we would switch to the category of partially transparent cities, then here we can see already 23 cities that are represented. Among these cities, we can see our capital, Kyiv, just like we have Lutsk, Mykolaiv, Odessa, Rivne, Uzhhorod, Khmelnytsky, Chernivtsi, Chernihiv. However, not just Zhytomyr and Ivano-Frankivsk, if we are talking about oblast centers. However, on this slide are not just oblast centers. We have also smaller cities here, like Shostka or, for example, Bila Tserkva or Berdychev. And now, actually, what is the top 5 of leaders? What cities went into this category? So we have such cities as Ternopil, Mukachevo, Dnipro, Drohobych, and Lviv. Those are the cities that demonstrated certain growth in their transparency, and they have shown the best practices when interacting with their citizens. Those are the cities that, for example, are showing such best practices as availability of appeals and the possibility to participate in a certain meeting or availability of broadcasting of the meetings, or those are cities that allow or offer some digital services for recording, for just assigning children to school or kindergarten, or they are informing their citizens about humanitarian aid, or they are informing and they are involving the necessary amount of internally displaced persons to the IDP's council, and they are involving people to working in certain committees. It is also very interesting to mention that among the top 5 leaders, now there is Drohobych, and according to assessments of the last year, it was in the category of non-transparent, and it made just a huge movement forward according to the results of the study. This year, we want to symbolically mention these cities, these leaders, and we prepared symbolic, transparent rewards for them regarding their level of transparency according to the results of 2023. Today we have online broadcasting. However, after this event today, we will contact for sure the representatives of the city councils and we will give them the reports. Well, now actually we will talk how could we get such results, what was good and what problems remain, and what recommendations do we provide in order to improve the situation in cities. Again, if we are talking about the cities that changed their category, I mentioned here in so these cities are mentioned a bit more details. So Drohobych made a double jump, so to say. However, many cities are there that just improved a lot, and it is worth underlining that inside of the categories, the assessments were growing, and we have to mention that in 30 cities, just like I mentioned already, more than 5%, we saw growth of the transparency level. Then, our indicators we are grouping in 3 different types of categories. Those are those that are requirements of the law, the best practices that we are insisting on implementing, and those that are implementing the requirements of the law and requirements of the best practices. So, the average level of performing the indicators, you can see that on your screen that actually not all the requirements of the law and more than half of the requirements is not performed at present by cities. And therefore, we can see the situation when 45%, on the level of 45%, performing of the indicators are those that are according to the law and the best practices. Now, if we are talking about where the cities were succeeding and why is that important right now under these conditions that we are working with the cities in 2023, for example, they could ensure the possibility to apply online for getting some residential educational services, created tools for claims and applications. Those might have been such tools like specialized resources. These are cities that are using, for example, the portal Your City or chatbots that are developing their own chatbots, or they are using some chatbots that are provided by the Ministry of Digitalization. Also, cities succeeded with involving citizens to the IDP Council and mechanism of providing compensation for the damaged property. So that was mentioned by some resolutions, but it's very important in the cities with the IDP's council that the necessary proportion and presence is ensured so that IDPs can impact the decisions made by the IDP's council and to have the part of the active citizens who want to impact the life of their city. Then also we mentioned some cities here, but I think that, like, for example, Odessa, Lviv succeeded with all of that. Then the factor of reporting of city heads is very important. We added this indicator, or we returned this indicator to our methodology this year. Unfortunately, not all the city heads are reporting about their activity to their community. However, for example, such cities as Dnipro, Zhytomyr, Stray, they were demonstrating their reporting and they were informing about the work of the mayor, and they were reporting annually or every 3 months. Also, the good practices that we are recommending to repeat and implement, that is to inform on the website of work of local authorities about the positions where people get their assignment beyond the competition. Now, under the martial law, it's possible. However, at the same time, they need to report about this need and where it is possible to conduct open competition if this is allowed by the conditions under which the situation is happening. So these best practices, they are incredibly important, not just from the point of view of involvement of citizens and interaction with citizens, but they are also very important in terms of our movement towards the EU, because these are those important aspects that are underlined in the report of the Euro Commission regarding the necessity or importance of this for us as a country that wants to move into democratic world. Also very important practices that were succeeding in the cities, that is to mention the movable property and some objects that might be taken into private ownership, or about the green plants that have to be removed so that it's in open access for people. Then there were digital auctions or seasonal objects or some objects for lease. And some cities succeeded in ensuring the full information about the committee on considering compensation cases for damaged or destroyed property or destroyed objects under the conditions of, of course, important practices that we are also recommending to replicate and to communicate actively so that it becomes the everyday practice of each city. If you look a bit more attentively at the topic, in Euro integration movement, how ready our cities are and like how much still has to be done. And this year, the cities increased their level of the budget transparency in comparison with 2022. However, at the same time, we have quite a lot of things that require finalization, and here in the aspect of involvement, necessity to involve citizens to impact the budget process. Many cities also succeeded to react to the appeals from their citizens and to ensure the mechanism of reacting to the registered applications or working on different claims that are coming or like some requests that are coming from citizens. So what is interesting that in the cities where they are on the front line and there's a lot of different things, these tools very often are being prepared much quicker than in other cities, taking into account the number of requests that they are getting. At the same time, it is worth speaking about the gray zones that are the zones where we can hope for some improvements for the future. On the given stage, it's not always that we have enough tools and enough transparency to monitor the work of the authorities. That is, it's not always announced, like the meetings are not always announced in full, not always the recordings are given, and therefore there is no possibility to control the things that are happening. However, again, the same, just like the meetings of Verkhovna Rada that are not published at present. Then, it is also important to stimulate the involvement of society to consultative and advisory bodies as IDP Council and the Committee on Considering Compensations for the Ruined Property. It is also very important to work on strengthening anti-corruption initiatives, and very important aspects are accessible and clear municipal statistics, because statistics in general is like our problem on the national level. However, on the regional level, it is incredibly important to manage based on data, to collect the qualitative data in the format of open data in particular. And now to the recommendations that we as a team are offering in order to improve the situation. Well, first of all, that is to share or to publish in 24 hours the recordings of the meetings of the councils and committees, etc. If the recordings with the city council meetings the situation was more positive, so with the committee, it was harder for many cities to do the broadcasting. A lot of information are not in access. It's important to include the representatives of public to such consultative advisory bodies as IDP's Council, the Committee on Considering the Provision of Compensation for the Damaged Property, and the Committee on some housing issues. Of course, it's a very complex issue regarding the involvement of citizens, regarding being qualified in the topic, and it's a very big task. However, actually to make decision without involvement of actually those target groups, it's very difficult, and it's even risky for the future and for some well-being, general well-being of the city development. Then also to publish the list of persons who are assigned not according to the competition with detailed information why and how and under what circumstances. So there is possibility to check it, and to also make a list of shelters available for population. It's also very important because every half a year this information is updated, but it has to be updated and it has to be relevant and it has to be available for the citizens. It's also very important to ensure a transparent list of lands, and the humanitarian aid that was received to report about the information, to provide the open information about criteria for getting the support, about regarding the availability of support, how the situation has changed, not to forget to update the situation, because sometimes there are cities that in 2022 the situation was better and in 2023 they didn't update that. Then avoid access to open data sets if otherwise is not regulated by some documents and appeals. So here we can see some speculations, and we can see the tendency to better hide more because it's less work, and sometimes there might be certain like speculation with safety risks. Therefore, it's necessary to move towards open data in the format of open data, actually, and in the format of how it is required in the relevant resolutions. It is very important to publish the documents adopted by the City Council, its bodies, and authorities in time according to legislation. It seems obvious, but as we see, more than 45% are performed. So there is some space for growth. To ensure functioning of tools of communication of citizens with the authorities submit like claims and requests information for IDPs. In certain cities, it works in a good manner. In certain cities, there is potential to repeating these or implementing these best practices. In our analytical note, we are recalling with certain examples and links, and you can see, you can take this best experience, you can learn from it, because it's very important for the citizens not just to have the opportunity to write or to sign some document, but also to get the answer when it's necessary. And from the side of the community, it is also very important to support and to get involved to this task. So correspondingly, monitoring and control are very important because they will encourage cities to become better. And that is very important aspect in terms of rebuilding the country and for involvement of international support. So correspondingly, we can see the following ways, and through involvement to monitoring to control, involvement to qualified support for some expertise, monitor the work and ask questions, because actually the questions will stimulate people and cooperate. If you can share something, you can help, maybe you can offer some template for the document or the template for the decision, please do offer, and that will be for the benefit of everybody. Here I will end my presentation part, and summing up, I would like to say that we can see some reserved optimism and reserved progress. At the same time, there is a lot of challenges we are existing with. At the same time, we believe and we are sure that transparency is incredibly important in spite of war, in spite of all the conditions we are living in right now. We have to improve ourselves, our life, and the conditions of functioning of our city. Correspondingly, that depends from each of us. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nesta. And while our panelists are getting prepared for the discussion, I would like to mention a few words. First of all, please pay your attention. We have QR codes on the slide. You can review the study in Ukrainian or in English. Just scan it, study it, comment, and we are ready for the feedback. We are ready to have the adult discussions and to answer the difficult questions. I would like to give the floor to Ivan Laktionov. Hello, and we continue. Well, actually, today we are gonna talk about the challenges as it has been announced already. We understand perfectly that in today's conditions of war, to demand something from cities, it's a bit idealistic. Sometimes it might seem that it's weird to demand something under constant challenge. However, if we won't control that, that contradicts our principles, that contradicts values and requirements of today's society, and I hope that we will talk about that a bit today as well. There are some situations when some cities are opening some public information and somewhere far, and those cities actually are the first like front line or the line of defense. And there are cities that are not showing anything, they're not opening any data, and it's not okay in my opinion. At the same time, we understand that working under the conditions of blackouts, under the conditions when the critical infrastructure is being damaged, so civil infrastructure is being damaged, is difficult because the safety of citizens indeed is on the first place. And I would like to mention that here today, before our delay with the presentation, there was another shelling of Chernihiv. Unfortunately, 5 people have died. And under these conditions, we are working almost every day. And what do we do under these conditions? Of course, we need to look for some balance between the transparency, reporting, and how to get out of it, how to take that as a basis. So before the beginning, I would like to give some reflection regarding what we've heard about the study itself, and I would like to present who's gonna join us today, because today we are having Pavlo Kuzmenko, the city head of Okhtyrka. We have today Andrii Sadovyi. I hope he will join us, or maybe he is with us already, the city head of Lviv. Oleksandra Azarkhina, Deputy Minister of Development of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure of Ukraine. Borovyk, Executive Director of IT Ukraine, and Okhtyrka Pavlo, the fourth power. So, dear friends, the floor is yours. I would like to offer to start from Pavlo Kuzmenko. Yeah, okay. We have some technical moment. I will give the floor to Andrii Sadovyi first. So, Mr. Andrii, the floor is yours. What are your feelings from the presentation? Like, very briefly, and we will go to presentation of each of you. Hello, dear colleagues. First of all, it's very pleasant that you are actively doing your work, and in spite of difficult times, in spite of war, still we are sticking to certain standards that are possible, because during the war, corruption, it's not okay, and everybody on their places should do everything to minimize the process. And today we have a lot of information, a lot of media, and there are some things that are like throwing you into rage, so to say. So thank you very much, and I'm really pleased that there are such things, because now we understand our personal responsibility, because it's impossible like that today you have some requirements to Lviv or to Kherson or Mykolaiv, because Lviv is more safe. And today we have a mission, so to say. First of all, it's a huge number of refugees, of IDPs, and here is the issue of employment, children go to school, medical support, etc. So fortunately, we have some things. We know that military situation is not easy today in our country. The second big block that we have is, of course, helping the wounded, because every day we are accepting the wounded. Just our municipality, 17,000 of wounded. Those are children, adults, and of course our warriors. Therefore, in the framework of ecosystem, we have the whole cycle built. These are both qualitative surgery on a good level, production of prostheses, because we are increasing capacity in our production all the time. That is rehabilitation, physical and psychological. And here, it is worth mentioning that any physical rehabilitation without psychological rehabilitation is of no effect. That is a living space for the wounded. That is work for those who had the treatment, who have had undertaken the treatment. That is arts, that is working with survivors of tortures. So those who had seen that in Lviv with their own eyes, they can understand how uneasy it is. The city head of Okhtyrka, he was at our place, he can confirm that, and I was offering, dear colleagues, all the participants of today's discussion, I would offer you to come to Lviv one more time. I would like to show you all of that and to tell you about all of that. Why? Because each team should have certain stage, rehabilitation stage. If there are medical institutions, relevant medical institutions, you need to understand the specifics of today's time. And we have the opportunity to do that because it's not that often that we have shellings. But even when we are shelled and our civilians are being killed, we find the opportunities and we find somehow a chance to rebuild all of that. And having partnership with many cities of the world, with many countries, it is very important to be able to make and to show and to bring information from the point of view of transparency of use and resources and different types of support. That is what we are trying to do. And we are quite succeeding, I dare say. And like every week, we have some residency for different communities. That is medical residency, architecture, economical, ecological, international residency. We are inviting to Lviv for 3 or up to 4 days representatives of the communities, and we are showing them how during the war we are handling difficult cases with certain examples. Because if you see that in Germany or in Italy, very often people are saying, well, that is impossible for us. But if we see that in Ukraine, in Lviv, I think that this is inspiring, and during this week, international residency is going on for Lviv communities, and approximately 1,000 of participants have registered in order for you to understand. Every day they are online listening to the lectures of our specialists, and then they will be involved offline. That's a great work, and today we have to understand personal responsibility, because every day, every minute, every hour, you have to spend for our victory, no matter where you are. 100,000 people are now on the front line, so our task is to take care of the families. And of course, the issue number one for the city of Lviv is military support of our militaries, and more than 60% of the budget of the city we reserved for helping. That is more than 1 billion hryvnias, and every week we are buying some different military things. Mostly those are our developments, so to say, domestic development. We are improving that. We are improving the powerful production of drones, and what is the most interesting that every week they are giving their products, and the enemy is not sleeping. The enemy is using all the possible technologies. So Lviv today is a huge humanitarian hub. It's a production hub, and we are gonna do all of that with transparency. So thank you very much for your work, for assessment of communities of the city of Lviv. And at the end, for a brief conclusion, I would like to show one brief video that symbolizes the work, and maybe this will make you come and see everything with your own eyes. If possible, please show the video. If that is possible, let us try technically. Mr. Andrii, while we are having some technical pause for the video, do you see it? What means to be brave? To look into the mirror. What is power? It's to find the point to rely on. What is victory? It is to feel the wind. What is freedom? It's to fly under the water. That is their new beginning, new story. Now I have the red belt. I continue dancing. I started running. I'm a father. New life. Thank you very much, Mr. Andrii. If you are with us, a brief question and we will just let you go. We are really pleased that you are one of not many cities that are using digital system Prozoro sales. Well, actually, those are you who are selling the right via um, trade, like some auctions, and you are broadcasting the meetings of the city council. However, at the same time, you didn't publish the generalized report about the humanitarian aid received in 2023, that is about municipal enterprises and the city council, etc. I have the question in general. What doesn't let cities be more transparent? And in this context, do you have the dialogue with the central authorities? What, on which stage of involvement of city council, whether you are working with that and we let you go? What is good for people is something that doesn't make it harder for them to live. So we, as for central authorities, like we had a meeting and Ms. Verdanko was representing the project by Ukrainian, and yesterday I sent her the information. In Lviv, we made 10 trams. We procured 10 trams for the cost of the bank, and the last tram actually from the plant, it went to the line. So we have to understand that indeed some communities, they are living their difficult times. However, qualitative governance is impossible without transparency, and it's impossible to say that, we cannot operate successfully during the war. No, during the war, there should be double qualitative governance. And we are perceiving the things that you are telling us. And as for the humanitarian aid, you mentioned that we had a meeting on Monday, and now we are going to publish in media all the information and all the support that we received, material support that we received for all of our departments. It is needed for us, first of all, so that we can report and we can understand what cities, what countries do we have cooperation with, where did we spend that, and also law enforcement agencies are not leaving for a minute, and I am surprised how many of them we have in our country. They are controlling, they are monitoring, and yeah, please let them work. We are giving them the information. So without transparency, there is no good governance, and without the good governance, we won't have our victory. So if somebody is saying that they cannot do that due to some reason, something's wrong with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Andrii. We have the timing, so I thank you very much one more time for joining us. I am greeting you with being the top 5 best. And I would like to give the floor to Mr. Pavlo Kuzmenko, but I would like to return to brief reflection after the study. For me personally, it became unexpected that Kyiv is only partially transparent city, and unfortunately since 2017, when they were in top 5, the capital has to give this tempo, has to show its example. The floor is yours. What became unexpected for you? Hi everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in such a forum. Thank you very much to Andrii Ivanovich for, I know him personally, and thank you very much for that push forward, because in the latest few months, I am in the different city. Okhtyrka is also a small city, and if Mr. Andrii remembers on the forum, when there was a forum on the Unbreakable in Lviv, I said that we want to have such a thing as well. And today we have the rehabilitation department for 30 beds. We have ambulatory, we are treating them like we have outpatient treatment. And as I'm talking civilized education with the support of Andrii Ivanovich and with the support of all indifferent Ukrainians, we are having that. So actually we are almost on the front line, and as of today we are having quite good rehabilitation department. It's just because we are communicating, it's because bright people are always learning and they take the best from their friends. So thank you very much, Andrii Ivanovich, and thank you for the opportunity to have a brief speech, to deliver the brief speech. I really like the word balance that you mentioned. Unfortunately, as of today, we need in our frontline city, and it's not just the city of Okhtyrka, but all the frontline cities, we have to stick to balance, the balance between what we can say and what we cannot say. a balance between what we should say and what is demanded from us to be said. This balance and this demand about balance, it is holding each head of community or of the city in tension. It requires double and even triple involvement from each of us. As of today, I really want us to be transparent. I want us to publish everything, to highlight and everything. However, unfortunately, the war has made its amendments, and on the 24th of February 2022, there was a decision that we are recording, if possible, all our meetings, and we are doing the broadcasting with a delay in time. That is regarding all the meetings of executive committees and all the sessions of Okhtyrka City Council and any other meetings that we are holding during even air raids. However, we need to work. We can't stop. And all the time we have to stick to this balance. Of course, we do want our people to be participants of all of those processes that are happening in our community, the processes of rebuilding, building, defense, etc., etc. However, many challenges came together with the war, and it's impossible as of today to publish the things regarding defense. We can't publish things regarding treatment of militaries, and a lot of things are done in this direction. We cannot publish some things regarding rebuilding of critical infrastructure, and these are all the issues that we have almost during every our meeting and meeting of executive committee and city council. Again, we have to stick to this balance. Thank you very much, Mr. Pavlo. Tell us, please. I will just switch to the questions straight away. Actually, Okhtyrka has shown big power. You became almost transparent, and it's a big, big plus. Our team was observing how everything's working. And you can register the child online to school, to kindergarten. You can submit some digital claims, etc. Nevertheless, you have a lot of ruined buildings, ruined heating, power station, and in this context, we understand perfectly that it's difficult. Let me ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Andrii regarding central authorities, and what else doesn't let you be more transparent? That is the first thing. And also, what is your connection like with central authorities? Thank you very much for your question. With central authorities, indeed, we have working relationships. Sometimes it has some tension, sometimes it's quite quick, and it like certain things are being solved. Why there is tension? Because me, as I'm pretty directive person. I'm not looking at different positions and everything, but I am asking question, or I am saying that something is wrong if it's wrong. And my team is same. We've all been under shellings, and we do know what is the cost of life. And we know what is the cost of that second of life when you ask question and you just want to get the answer straight away. So indeed, just like Andrei Ivanovich, we have work relationship, and the only thing is that we want to get the answer when we ask the question. Like we ask the question, we want to get the answer. We have no time to wait. Unfortunately, there are certain things in understanding the position of the local governments, and sometimes central authorities are trying to set the tasks that we don't have to solve, or maybe we are not authorized to solve that. And well, these are work moments. They can be solved in the process of life of our community, in the process of everyday cooperation, dialogues on all levels with ministry, from city-state administration. I would also like to make some improvements that as of today our city has been rebuilt quite seriously. And as of today, we don't have much ruination or destruction. In my opinion, that's quite interesting feeling. However, thanks to all of the country for being together, our city was rebuilt already. And thanks to the support and help from international organizations, step by step, we are doing the rebuilding. Yeah, we have some issues regarding the city council, but I think that we will rebuild that after our victory already. There are some questions about the heating station, but everything can be rebuilt. Thank you very much, Mr. Pavlo. I just, in advance, I gave you some points. Hopefully, in the next study, you will become partially transparent, because you are almost partially transparent, because I said that you are coming closer to transparent ones, but hopefully that will happen soon. Thank you very much for your work, and we just let you go. Thank you very much. And using the opportunity, we switched from local authorities a bit to central authorities. We have Oleksandra Azarkhina, who is responsible in the Ministry for Regional Policy. And actually, let me ask you, communication with cities, is that okay or not? Somebody says that everything's fine, everything's okay, and how do you interact? Forming policy regarding regional development and reforms of local authorities and administrative and territorial thing. It's not a call center, So I think it's very important to understand that the role of central authorities, it's not just to answer the questions, it's to set a single framework and to give them space for development in this way. Of course, the dialogue is very important. Communication is very important. And here, first of all, I can say with pleasure that in the government, we are doing advocacy for local self-governments, and we are doing everything for them to be able to be the leaders in recovery. However, leadership is not just to solve who is distributing money and where, but its responsibility and competencies. And therefore, very important work of Transparency International Ukraine. Thank you very much for this research or this study, because in our team, we are sure that recovery in the broad sense is impossible without sticking to basic principles regarding the transparency and reporting. And here, with the city head of Lviv, I will agree. I will disagree with him that authority, it was mentioned, the good authorities are those who are not touching you. Well, sometimes the local authorities, they were blaming the power, but this reform of self-governance, it shouldn't stop on the level of separate cities and municipalities. It should go forward to citizens. And therefore, on the level of government, we already have the roadmap adopted for local. It's a plan of measures till 2027 when we write the priorities of the reform that obviously have changed a bit since the time when the first concept appeared 10 years ago about the reforms. So what kind of moments do we have here? I was really happy to hear in today's study the focus on statistics. The plan of measures in our reform on decentralization includes the issues of local statistics. As a ministry, we've created a work group. We've conducted the first meeting. We are working here together with Ministry of Digitalization and State Service. And we are trying to do that. We try to do the basic mechanism for local statistics. And we would like to include experts to working groups. I will agree with Ms. Anastasia that it's very important, and it's one of the tops of transparency and good governance in general. And it is supported by our international partners who are seeing that in terms of our Euro integration obligations. And we have very good conditions in Ukraine because the last 10 years, a lot of things were generated in the country. It's not always easy to generate them in one format. However, we have the good ground for that and the approach that we are having a development of dream system when we are synchronizing with 9 ecosystems, existing Ukrainian ecosystems. We are approaching the system of regional development in the same manner, and we do understand that the part of data will be generated in EC as part of local statistics. However, mainly it will be something that is existing in different registries. So the work is being done, and actually we have the support of USAID Hoverla here, but I would like to remind you that we are involving also other experts, especially from different countries, and Poland is helping us. Ministry of Development and Funds is one of the champions in the EU on statistics and local data, and we are trying to take their expertise. The second aspect I would like to mention, it's the dilemma, transparency and safety. Of course, it's very serious. Of course, it has to be taken into account. Before the full-scale invasion, there was a certain story with our air forces, because Russians were following our palace. They were using information about the queue on getting the residential premise. But that was threatening the life of our pilots, and we don't have many pilots, so such things should be hidden. But when we are talking, especially like, for example, like our ministry, the registry of damaged premises, damaged facilities, well, it actually shows the hits, etc. We are having that close. We are not showing the data, but in our state position, like, all the other data should be open, like critical infrastructure that has peculiar interest from the point of view of energy. Yes, we will hide this information. We understand the patterns of actions of our enemies. However, all the rest should be in open access. And indeed, I think that the access to reporting and vision of national safety and many other moments, we do all understand that this is the issue of external military support at the end, and microfinancial support and trust from the society in general to all of us and to our work. Without being open and transparent, it will be much harder for us. Of course, there are challenges that we've been discussing a lot in Transparency International. That is perception of corruption. That is why we have the well-known index, which is called the same way. So when we are talking about corruption, it turns out that we have more of that in our discussions than maybe in reality. It's a challenge. But I'm sure that still we have to talk about that directly. We have to discuss that from our side. We faced many times such a story that I've been communicating with one international expert, and he says that your dream system is bad. I entered that, and in Zaporizhia, there were projects with corruption, and I just froze for a minute, and then I thought, like, do you understand that you saw these projects thanks to the fact that they are in the system? There was another issue that our system is discriminational because there are only those projects that are in the system, and here I just froze for 2 seconds, and I thought, like, yeah, but there are some projects uploaded by communities, and those that communities did not upload, they are not in the system. So there are challenges in perception. However, I think truth, and we are openly saying that yes, there are problems. We are working with them. And as far as I touch the dream system, of course, we will ask in the nearest years when we will have the dream as official to include the transparency into assessment of criteria of dear colleagues, also what is in the system, because it's very nice when you can see, even when you're not obliged to use the system, you can see a huge number of Lviv City Council in the system, 77 objects, and it is not connected to the sources of financing, etc. So indeed, that is a desire from the community to present themselves perfectly for international partners, first of all, to show their transparency and reporting. As for now, it's not mandatory, so we can see 77 nice and beautiful projects, etc., etc. When it will become, yeah, we have good working group, and Transparency International is invited there already. After the working group, we are going to their monthly public consultations before the registration of the loan recovery, and the main block is are things concerning dream. But now it's not mandatory. 77 you show beautiful, and 70 more you can hide, etc. So, obviously, I think that we all as Ukrainians should demand that such systems should be used. It should be mandatory. Also, what I mentioned in my notes, the public consultations, it's necessary for us for performing the Ukraine facility, the necessity of publications of the materials and public consultations. It's a very progressive mechanism as a ministry and the profile committee with Alana Shlak, we are supporting this draft law. We are promoting that, and hopefully that will be adopted. It will add more headache for local authorities, for regional authorities, but we believe that it's necessary. An additional important moment we are waiting for the document on transparency to be signed. There are key provisions that are regarding the publications of materials, and it was mentioned also in this study. However, for me, this law is very important also from the point of view because it makes it necessary to develop the registry of damaged property. We started working with USHCR. There is a big project for we are developing the necessary interface and necessary functions for the community. In addition to that, we start development of the call center with the support of Havarla and in the future DT, I hope, digital transformation activity. The registry of decisions of local self-governments, because there is a legal requirement to publish their decisions. However, the information is in different formats. It's not analyzed easily, only if you make a lot of effort. So we believe that we need a good registry, digital, convenient, and that is on the stage 0 when we are going to the next level of reform of local authorities, that is implementing some administrative observation according whether the decisions made are legal and according to the law. So there is movement with this. We are expecting the final version. Hopefully that will be adopted finally. However, we can hear the local self-governments that are saying, how do we ensure that in spite of our political orientation, we have the same attitude from administrations under all of this action? And here the answer is the same: transparency and reporting. So first of all, we need the reporting, and then the registry and the actions will be there. Everything that has to be shown. Thank you. One more thing. You mentioned DREAM. I will just do some reflection. Our team started collecting analytics from the cities in order to prepare that and to see whether it's used or it's not used. And we understand totally this challenge. And here I have the question regarding the staff, because the digital system DREAM has to be there, has to be someone in the room and has to fill that in. Unfortunately, I couldn't ask the question to local representatives. I will ask it to you. How is that with the workers for you? Like, what is your situation? Maybe somebody who is online, you can comment. Please write your comment. But the question is to you: is there a problem or like a challenge? I mean, the staff. The staff is a challenge determined in the state strategy of local development, and the government committee has came there. It's a problem of not only the ministry and national bodies, it's a problem of the whole country. The first 2 years of war, I think that we didn't feel it that much, and now it becomes critical. And there are some really objective reasons to that. Yes, there are problems with this stuff. However, again, we believe in digital solutions that will simplify the process. Simple example with the DREAM. Last year, we've been launching the projects via DREAM, and at this stage, we could not ensure the easy processing of objects, as now when DREAM will be mandatory when using subventions for school shelters. So we already developed the functionality, and there is much less work for the ministry. There is much less work for other subnational levels. So many moments were simplified. So I believe that here is vice versa. We need to make a step back. And if you cannot work with the digital tools, you are building this. And then you go to all the others, because probably it is already built into the Ukrainian state. But yes, there are challenges with the stuff. So again, the call for everybody who can impact this somehow, we have to develop the centers of development competencies and excellencies, etc. And we need to work with those Ukrainians who had to leave the country, and we should involve them so that all of them are in our agenda. And when the time comes, they come to work with us. Thank you very much. You have to run. Yeah, okay, we just let you go. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to go to, well, we talked about local governments. We've talked a bit with the central authorities. I would like to give the floor to Myroslava Prymak, analyst of the Fourth Power. She's working on development of the fair society without corruption in Rivne Oblast, let us say so. In 2022 and 2023, you received some rewards, and 2022 or 2023 for investigations in Rivne, and in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, you were investigating the city hospital, and the next year in Oblast hospital. The question is, you and journalists, the great public is playing the big role in the activity of our authorities. So the question is it difficult for you to work in today's conditions or not? And what would you advise to local self-government? For example, maybe you will address your boss, like what should be done in order to be more transparent. Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. In 2020 to 2023, our journalists received some victory, so to say, and the question was about changes and how can we impact the open data in our region. I would like to mention that there are some things that are not changing, and you underlined that really well, that thanks to the armed forces of Ukraine and thanks to the reforms that we had in the last 5 years, we can continue developing our society, including using open data. We are studying any information that is open. Like, first of all, we are studying the information which is there on Prozoro about tenders, Prozoro sale. We are analyzing the decisions of local authorities, Rivne, in the rating of half transparent, and my own point of view. It's really objective because, yes, they are publishing some things, but these are not open data in classical understanding. Those are scanned copies of decisions. That is, this type of submitting the materials, it seems to be a challenge for a local authority. Well, how do we do that? It's a systemic work. We are not just working, writing one material, one investigation, and that's it. The challenges are that we don't always get information, even when we send the request for public information. Often we have to address the ombudsman, and it's very good that this mechanism is working and it's helping at places for journalists to get the information. Sometimes even we have to go to court with a claim. The fourth power is working for dozens of years with open data. That's very good. I would like to pay your attention that open data and publications of those open data, it seems to me, is the easiest way to increase trust to local authorities. Andrii Sadovyi, Mr. Andrii Sadovyi, he said that this is talking about proper governance, and from my side, it's as a citizen who is actively always using and checking the open data, it seems that it's very good and the simplest way to increase trust to local self-governments. In the last 3 years, it seems to me that it became regressive. Maybe this is caused by war, emotions, exhaustion, and city citizens, they are losing trust in the authorities that they are choosing. And if we increase transparency of the power, this will at the same time increase the trust to power. So I would offer the cities not to stop and to publish the information, of course, taking into account what information can be published during the war. And I would like to say that in the Rivne, the fourth power is media with high reputation. If you, as Transparency International, are disciplinating local self-governments with your studies, like not to stop publishing some data and over time I see some progress, that is, they are opening that because they understand that being the authority is temporary, but the reputation is for all your life. And we as local journalists, we are taking them out of the comfort zone during those years, meaning the authorities from the zone of take them out of the zone of comfort, it's development. So you're analyzing, and we will try to use your information and data and not to stop in development. Thank you very much using the opportunity. I would like to advertise a bit. Myroslava Prymak prepared interesting book, Anti-Corruption in Communities. It seems to me it's even written like that will be useful for local deputies and representatives of executive communities, public organizations, and active citizens who are not ready to be okay with the corruption. And there are 20 anti-corruption cases. It's written in an interesting way. If necessary, write Myroslava, tag her in comments, and she will share her results. Thank you very much, Myroslava. I would like to move to Mr. Andrii, taking at the end, right? Today, under today's conditions that we are in, international partners, just like never, are helping us, and in general, the survival of our country depends on international partners. And the question is, what do international partners think regarding the transparency in Ukraine? Such a question. You ask the question, it's kind of philosophical question, and there is no clear answer to that. To be brief, partners are expecting that we will have transparency on the level of end of 2021. When I have to explain them myself that it's almost impossible, by the way, it's about balance, because now there are totally different realities. And unfortunately, not everybody can understand that because they are not living under these circumstances. But transparency requires like certain level of that. And Oleksandra made example, like, look, the dream, we found some violations in Zaporizhia and some projects. This story, they like it more when they can go somewhere and see. Transparency matters. At the same time, that's a story with, like, brief example with Dream. It reminded me how many years have we been hearing that. So the same about Prozoro. Your Prozoro doesn't work, you still have corruption in procurements. Like, that's what I heard. The same as Dream. Like, yeah, Dream is not working because you have some violations in the projects. So zeros and ones won't solve the corruption. It just can give us some tools in order to cope with that a bit. And again, our partners are seeing that transparency can help not just them sitting in their capitals looking what is happening in Ukraine and how people are treating their money, but knowing the activity of the journalists, of civil citizens, not only in the capital but also in the regions, that we will not omit those issues with our attention. At the end, I guess I would like to add the things that surprised me pleasantly. There is a range of cities who said, just please assess us, especially knowing what the result will be, because last year we consciously did not assess cities that are in oblast, that are near the front line. And this time it's at least 10 cities that, like, we look at the map, they are on the line, on the front line, and they are under attack almost in a day, if not every day. That's nice. And I hope that they are not upset with our assessment and with the results, but I would like to calm them down, because maybe that even they see that the fact that they want to be assessed in this sense is already very good, and the results will come over time. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was also surprised that we have those 10 cities, and I was also surprised at the end. I would like to mention about Kyiv, because Kyiv as capital should show and should aim at more transparency. And those 10 cities that you mentioned, it was a surprise for me that 2 of them are partially transparent, actually. So that is a significant result when somewhere in the rear, like, cities are not opening information, but the frontline cities are doing that successfully. Dear colleagues, we are really grateful for being with us. We are confident that the cities and representatives of local authorities right now are actively studying, I guess, our research. They are writing something down, they are analyzing that, and they will come to us with questions. I would say that the team of Transparent Cities is ready for that. We are waiting for your questions, comments that you left, that you wrote, that you mentioned. We are registering that. You will be provided with answers at the end. I would like to thank our partners, international partners, who are supporting us, and especially we are grateful for support, for the fact that we can be here, that we can talk, that we can conduct the everything to the Army of Ukraine. Thank you very much.